Hi, this is Joe from JRX, and this is the startup and shutdown tutorial for the JRX MD902 for X-Plane 12. Let's begin. We need to set up your controllers. We don't need a throttle for this aircraft, so any controller you have that can control collective, roll, pitch and yaw will be perfectly suitable. Whilst you're doing your controller setup, we have created lots of custom commands that you can have a look through, and you can assign these to any controller, the keyboard, any button or any other hardware that you have that is compatible with X-Plane. Okay, next we're just going to talk about gated switches. So there are 4 or 5 of these on the aircraft, and a gated switch means that it requires 2 actions to operate it, so it can't be turned on or turned off inadvertently. First up are the engine control switches. These are the click zones left and right, so if I click here, this will not operate, so we're going to have to switch the gate by clicking this top part here. So it's 1, 2. Then the gate no longer applies whilst we're going up, and then when we come down we cannot switch off accidentally. We'll have to operate the gate and off. The other switches that have a gate are the fire extinguisher for the bottle discharge, and what we're doing again is we're activating the gate. We're clicking the top area, you'll see change to hand, and it's 1, 2, and this one actually doesn't have a gate to go off. We can just turn that off, but the battery switch does. So quite simply, 1 click, and to come this way we click above and the power comes on. We can't turn that off now, so to switch it off we need to operate the gate. So it's 1, 2. And that's it for the gated switches. Nothing too difficult, but I just thought I would mention it. Next up is the aircraft configuration, and that's controlled all in one place via the tablet, and the button is just here. We click that, that toggles the tablet. Let's zoom in. The tablet is multi-function, and to cycle through the pages we're using this button here. Checklists. This space is reserved for the RXP GTN 750. If you have that installed and everything's turned on, it will display here. The Great AVI tab, page reserved, and back to the configuration. By default, this is how the tablet loads up. The aircraft has 3 roles: HEMS, utility and transport, and you have the options here to add aircraft equipment. I've added persistence to this section here, which means whatever you select when you exit X-Plane or go for another flight and come back, these options will still be set. So if you always like to fly with the doors off, for example, they will always be off until you turn them back on. I've also added persistence to a couple of other items. The collective control twist grips, these are normally left in the normal position. And the VSCS, the vertical stabilizer control system, this is the power to the motors that are on the fins outside, just here on each side. Last few bits about the tablet, I have included an option for the RXP GTN 750. If you want to have that installed down here, we can. You can simultaneously have it on this tablet as well. I've also included a shortcut to the weight and balance menu, so you can make personal adjustments there. And finally, when the battery switch is on, we will have the current weight of the aircraft just here. Takeoff weight 2,500 kilograms, and we're actually at 2,053. So you can check your weights as you go. So we've set our controllers up, we've added any commands that we wanted, we've done the aircraft configuration, and finally we're ready to start. There's 4 or 5 ways we can start this. I'll go through each one in turn. Because of the noise, the sounds of the helicopter over me speaking, I'm just going to attenuate the sound slightly, and we can come back to the tablet. If we choose the pilot with the helmet on, he has a very high level of attenuation. The radios come through crystal clear, but the engines and all the other aircraft sounds are quite distant. I think for purposes of the video, we'll go for the headset. The headset has slightly less attenuation. Okay, for start number 1, we're going to use the checklist, which is on the tablet, just here. This checklist has been written from the pilot handbook. I've taken things out that can't apply to X-plane, but in general, this is about 99% accurate. So for this aircraft, there are 2 types of starts. There's an automatic start and a manual start. I have not included currently the manual start in the coding. That's purely because there's not a lot of difference. You're just operating the twist grips separately. So we're going to go for the automatic start with the engine control system. Let's begin. Item number 1, all doors closed and safe locked. Item 2, rotor brake is stowed. That's the rotor brake off. That's on. That's off. Flight instruments, check static, position and set. So everything looks okay. We can set any current pressures, but everything looks normal and okay. Collective full down. Twist grip marks aligned with the index mark. Landing and HVR lights off. Key switch on. Circuit breakers in. They are all in. That's what they look like when they're out. Utility panel, which is this one here. And we're looking for cab heat off, AC vent off, pitot heat switch off, IPS integrated particle separator off, VSCS left and right on. The lighting control panel, the light master switch as required. Now this is not a master switch to provide power for the lights. This is an lighting attenuator that will work at night to instantaneously dim all of the instrument lights at the same time, and you won't see that make any effect until it's dark. Console, IIDS, flood and instrument dim switches are here. I've set these to pretty standard settings on load, but you can change these as required when the power is on. Strobe position, beacon and any other external lighting you can set as required. We'll use the beacon prior to starting the engine. Next we have avionics as desired. We'll bring these on later. Left and right generator on. Battery off. Fuel system panel, left and right boost on. Engine control panel, left and right engine off. Okay, so the next step is to turn on the battery. What will happen is the IIDS will go through a bit test that you can visually check, and the electronic instruments will start to power up. You'll also note on the IIDS, the fire warning annunciators should come on for 2 seconds, and you can check the IIDS for advisories. So it's battery on. And we will wait. Okay, everything looks good there. We shall proceed. So now we have the IIDS powered up. I'll just give you a very quick explanation of how it operates in the aircraft. So this signifies the left engine, and all the temperatures and pressures will show within that engine. This is the transmission, and this is the right engine, or number 2. These buttons are not doing much in this version of the sim, but we do have the display button. If we click that once, we will permanently have all of the T's and P's showing. If we click it again, we'll have a annunciation test, and if we click it one more time, it will go back to its normal operation. And the way that IIDS is designed to work, it will only display a temperature or pressure that's out of range. So most of the time these should all be clear. The last item on the IIDS and the last item on the pre-start checklist is the fuel quantity. These are the fuel lines going from the tanks into the engine, and I can tell by looking at that the fuel pumps are on. These states will change, and I will just show you briefly. If we turn off the boost pump, you'll see that this here will change. That doesn't mean that the engine's not getting fuel, it just means that the left boost pump is not on. If we turn off the fuel shut off, you'll see there's a gate there, and that means that the engine is not getting any fuel. Okay, we're ready for the automatic start. Let's turn on the beacon. Either engine may be started first. The cyclic should be trimmed to the neutral position for the startup and shutdown, and the pedals need to be set neutral. Make sure the collective is full down. Maximum demonstrated wind speed for starting and stopping the rotor is 50 knots. Okay, let's begin. Let's go to the fuel system panel. Left or right boost is on. It's another check. The EEC manual indicators on the IIDS are off. Now these are normally here. If the twist grips are in the off position, then the EEC is expecting a manual start, and you'll see now that they say manual. We can use this in this position for a vent run, which is programmed into this aircraft, but for now let's just focus on the automatic start and leave these in the normal position. Okay, we're ready to start. We're going to start engine number 1 first, and it's 1, 2. Monitor the IIDS, monitor the EGT. We're looking for a minimum of 60% NR before we can start the second engine. You can see that the T's and P's are cleared. If you want to monitor them, you can check there. Rotor's turning. We're greater than 60% NR, and we will start the second engine. We'll just let everything come up. Okay, we can start to bring in some of the other systems now. We'll start with the avionics. You'll note that the standby attitude indicators are spinning up, and you can fast direct these by pressing and holding. GPS is coming on. Same with the co-pilot's attitude indicator. And we can begin to set any of the avionic settings, radios, and anything else that you need to do before your flight. The next item is the engine run-up. Again, avionics as desired. Left and right engine to fly. Let everything settle down. The torque synchronized, the EGT's rising and settling down, the NR's at 100%. The next thing you need to do is just fly. Okay, so we're on to the flight checklist now. Before takeoff, it's a cyclic response check. You can see that the cyclic is moving the rotors. Collective friction, which I haven't programmed in, it has little value in the sim. Check the primary and secondary IIDS displays. Everything's looking clear on that. Pitot heat, if required, you can turn on. IPS, if required, you can turn on. Cabin heat, we can bring on. If things in the cockpit are getting a little dark, I'm filming this in the evening come night time because I think for a video it shows the instruments a lot clearer. But if you think it's getting a little bit too dark, we have the area lighting. That's the rear cab, this is the cockpit, so it's nice and bright. Or we can have both. Also above the pilot's head we have a utility lamp which is red, or if you want you can have white. There we go. The next event is the takeoff. We need to make sure the hover area and takeoff path is clear. We need to note the torque at hover power, and then we perform the takeoff using 10% above hover power. We'll start the flight timer, which can be started with this button or this button. And you also note that when the skids come off the ground, the no, go, go amber light will come on. It will then turn green after 8 seconds. And I will attempt a non-VR takeoff just so we can demonstrate these things. Okay, let's pause it there. I just want to demonstrate that there is an extreme left skid low in the hover. That's because the way the NOTAR system works. So we're going to need quite a bit of back and left cyclic to hold a stable hover. Okay, we've completed our flight. Apologies for my poor flying. I only ever fly in VR. It was quite difficult for me to do that in 2D. Let's begin with the shutdown. Collective full down. Cyclic stick and pedals trimmed to neutral. And it's engine left and right control switches set to idle. Let's turn on the light. It's getting a little bit too dark. There we go. Okay, we're coming down to idle, which is normally around 65% of NR. Okay, so it's all unnecessary electro equipment off. Cab heat off. AC vent off. IPS off. Pitot off. Lighting control panel, we'll turn the strobes and the position off. We'll leave the beacon on till the end. Avionics master switch off. Left and right generator switches off. Left and right fuel boost switch off. And finally we can shut down the engine. Off. Off. Check IIDS for engine out. Okay, if we want to bring the rotors down quicker, we can gently apply the rotor brake. It's quite grabby at the moment, it will be adjusted. And there we go. Okay, so we're back the next morning and I'm going to show you the second option that you can choose. Located on the panel down here, we've got an engine start rotation sticker. If we click on this, this will perform a full automatic start via the checklist.
Automatic start activated.
If the switch isn't set or in the wrong position, it will set it and go through the whole list until the engine is started.
Automatic start complete. Ready to fly.
And there we go, that's the custom automatic start done. Okay, the third way is the developer's way, or a shortcut, what I've been using for over a year or so. There are some things that's very important. The engine will not start if the following are not on. If the key's off, if the twist grips are off, if the fuel boost pumps are off, or if the rotor brake is on, the engine will not start. So the minimum that we need to have for a quicker way of starting is the following: key, battery on, boost pumps on, twist grips on, rotor brake off. As soon as the IIDS is complete, we can go 1, 2. let the engine run up. We're looking for a minimum of 60% NR before we can start the second engine. There we go. Second engine starting. Okay, so that's the quick start without using any of the X-plane menu options. The fourth way we can choose to start, we can select our aircraft, choose customize and check start engines with running. This option I do not prefer because X-plane does things internally to the code. It whacks out the weight and balance and does a few other bits and pieces that I haven't quite tracked down, so I very rarely use this option. Okay, you note for around 7 seconds there was no sound, and that's called a ducker. It's an FMOD thing. What happens is when the flight initializes and FMOD loads, all of the switches and dials and everything else that's set to 0, it will play them all at once. So we naturally mute the sound for a few seconds. I think this is 7 seconds, just so you don't hear that happening, but that's perfectly normal. Okay, we're leaving the worst till last. The most unglamorous and most undignified way to start any aircraft is the good old X-plane Control-E, Control-Shift-E from the menu, flight, start engines to running. This is so bad, I'm probably not going to put it on the video. It works, give it some time. If you really must use it, you can use it, it's your choice. Just awful, but it's there. Okay, so there we have it, starting and shutting down the JRX MD902. There's 5 options, they all work. Some work better than others. If you have any problems with anything to do with the aircraft, you can contact me over on the forums. The next video will be the cockpit tour, where I'll go into a little bit more depth about the aircraft and the systems. But until then, I'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.